Well, here we are. It's Saturday, January the 23rd, and week 4 of Hume 310 is just a couple of days away. I trust you are well and finding some good purpose and meaning for your own personal journey as you work through the various assignments and activities of this course. From your thoughtful work and discussion, I'm pretty sure that you're all finding the course to be challenging and helpful. Before getting too far into the directions for this week or comments for this week, I want to call your attention to a couple of basic changes. First, weeks 4 and weeks 5 both call for synchronous face-to-face sessions. I'm not going to go into all of the details about that. There are lots of reasons, but the bottom line is we're not going to do those live face-to-face sessions. There's a problem with scheduling and access that I haven't quite figured out. I'm not blaming the system or anybody else. It's more me than anything else. I'm disappointed about that because I do love the face-to-face interactions. I like to see who I'm talking with. You get to see me. I don't get to see you. But to replace it, point 2, to replace the synchronous session for week 4, I'm asking you to write a brief couple of paragraphs, no more, just a brief response to the questions that would have been the questions around which our synchronous sessions were identified. You'll find them in the syllabus and also here under the title Heroes and Me. In this course, it says, you have seen films that considered the hero and the moral dilemma that often results when he or she is caught between varying forces. I'm asking you to provide a brief 1 or 2 paragraph response to these questions. Which character, Henry, Beckett, Romero, Father Grande, Frodo, Sam, Gandalf? I don't know. Which hero, which character did you personally most identify with and why? What questions, if any, were raised in your own mind about yourself, the world we live in, the role of the hero? And on the basis of these 3 movies, how would you define hero? I'll provide a space. I've provided a space for that response. It's titled Heroes and Me. Third, we're not going to use the other synchronous discussion about influential thinkers. We're going to approach that from a different perspective. I'll talk more about that in a minute. I hope this makes sense. If not, send me an email and I'll attempt to further clarify. The regular discussion for week 4 is also about heroes and asks you to reconnect with the 3 films. But I really want to encourage you to do something before you develop your responses to those questions. I want you to make sure that you watch the PowerPoint presentation that's provided on Moodle titled The Archetype of the Hero. This is something I put together that will really help you to respond to the discussion within a certain context. It's an important context of how the hero is understood and what the role of the hero might be in our world or in the world the hero inhabited, whether that's a real world or not real world, whether the hero wanted to be a hero or not be a hero. I've also added a couple of clips from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. You don't have to watch these. I've added them because they're really good illustrations of what the archetype of the hero is talking about, and also kind of demonstrate the pattern that our other heroes have dealt with, but in a really more classical, archetypal, formal way. They're added really for the fun of it, as I said, but they really do connect well to the discussion, and you might want to watch them. It might be helpful to you. But be sure to watch them in the order that they're listed, because they are actually chronologically in that order. So first is titled Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, 1989, 3 trials scene. And the second is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, 1989, Choosing the Holy Grail whole scene. If you can only find one of them or have time to watch one of them, watch the first one because it really connects with the archetype. Okay, moving away from that to the third installment of your life map. This also takes place in week 4, and its theme is spirituality. And this sometimes is quite a challenge to people. For some, maybe not for any of you, but the term spirituality can be kind of a vague term, although we use it on purpose. So I thought I'd provide some additional help. First, let me say spirituality is a generic term. Therefore, it is broad and sometimes not helpful. We often confuse religion and spirituality, and there is a connection, but they're not necessarily the same thing. So it may be helpful for you to keep in mind that all religions have a spirituality, but not all spiritualities have a religion. If you think of religion as a combination of creed and practices and obligations, and this is the way we do it, this is the way it's done, spirituality is a little freer than that. And so it's probably more important or more appropriate, at any rate, for us to talk about Christian spirituality or Buddhist spirituality or Hindu spirituality. Spirituality as a generic term is a generic term, and therefore it has uses and it can't be helpful. So in general, there is a helpful way to think about it, and it's provided by the University of Maryland Medical Center. And so let me just share that with you. On their website, it says, spirituality has been defined in numerous ways, which include, now it may not be all of these, every spirituality may not contain all 4 of these, but most do, and some emphasize one more than the others. But keep these kind of in mind as you think about your own spirituality. A belief in a power operating in the universe that is greater than I am, greater than you are. A sense of interconnectedness with all living creatures, animals, vegetables, minerals, a sense of connectivity. An awareness of purpose and meaning in life or of my life. And the development of personal values. And these values are often personal but absolute. They are my values. They govern my life. It's the way you find meaning and hope and comfort and inner peace in your life. Now that may be in a religion, or it may be in something quite not religious. Although spirituality is often associated with religious life, many believe that personal spirituality can be developed outside of religion. Acts of compassion, acts of selflessness, acts of altruism, the experience of inner peace, all of these are characteristics of spirituality. So as you map out this third element of your map, your life map, kind of keep those terms in mind. I hope that helps you. If not, again, contact me by email and I'll try to further clarify. This week also ends our exploration of significant philosophers. One of my favorite writers, a historian named Thomas Cahill, talks about moments in history as hinge moments, like a door hinge, when civilization goes through some fundamentally worldview-shaking change. I think that's also a good way to think about the philosophers we've studied. Each of the 4 up to this point are hinge people. They changed the world. They changed the way we think about the world. With Descartes and Sartre, these are also hinge thinkers. With them, these 2 French guys, we enter the modern era and some decidedly different ways of thinking about the world and even of how we think about the world. In this case, you're going to work on both of them and fill in a chart, which you'll find on Moodle. Descartes is considered the father of the modern era. Sartre is an existentialist who builds on Descartes, but goes in places Descartes himself wouldn't go. These two men approach philosophy in similar but also fundamentally different ways and reach very different conclusions than each other and the four persons before them. I'll be really interested in hearing about your thoughts on them. Finally, before I say goodbye, let me call your attention to week 5. There is not as much work to do, as many assignments to do for week 5. And remember, we are dropping the synchronous session, so I'll be replacing that with some kind of response forum. But the focus for this week is kind of a so what, all right? We've been on this journey. We're in the 5th week. We've been studying these philosophers, and we've been reading Anne Lamott and considering her kind of way of thinking about the world and faith and others. And we've been doing a lot of work, a lot of self-reflective work on ourselves and so on and so forth. So it leaves us with a kind of so what question. And that's really what week 5 is about. So I'm encouraging you right now to look ahead. Go to the syllabus or onto Moodle and look at week 5 and focus in particularly on a project that's entitled Personal Ontology Presentation. This is a very important final project. It's the So What project. It's there's so many ways I could describe it. It's a snapshot. It's a tentative conclusion. So I encourage you to check it out now as soon as possible so you can begin thinking about it. It's an outgrowth really of everything we've done up to this point, everything you've done up to this point. And you may have questions that you need clarified. And I want you to do that before it's too late to do that. So if you have questions, ask them early. Well, that's enough. It's a lot more in this introduction to week 4 than I've done in the others. I will talk with you soon. I bet. See you around. Bye-bye.